I literally came across this video just, I don't know, from my last video. It was just right here on the right. So let's give it a watch. No reason, again, this isn't, I wasn't handed this, it's just something I came across.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We've got a number of amusing things to take a look at in this video regarding the state of AAA, how desperate the corporations are getting, as well as their bootlickers. Back on October 10th, this article came out on Games Radar, saying Cities Skylines 2 publisher says players have higher expectations today and are less accepting that games will fix things over time. And
Yeah, because we've been fucking lied to. Like, I can't tell you how many times games come out buggy, broken, unplayable, and you say this and people are like, oh, whoa, it's a beta. Or, oh, it just came out, give it time. Well, and mainly it's the beta, and it's like, well, okay, so the actual game fucking comes out, and the problems are still there. It's like, okay, so it's a beta. Most games are $70 betas after the first 2 or 3 weeks of it coming out. Then they hit you with patches. So it's like, if you wait, you get a better product, you get a functional product, right? And hey, it costs less per, what you're got cost. Well, it's still $70, right? But now you're paying 70 fucking dollars for a fully functioning product, as opposed to buying it day one because of the FOMO and getting less of it. And again, that's what they want to benefit off of, is the fear of missing out.
And that news reminded me of this news from just a few weeks before that headline. This one saying Ubisoft says gamers have extraordinary expectations for titles. And the author saying I'd settle for pretty decent. It gets even worse because that comment was made from Yves Guillemot of Ubisoft during that financial statement thing that we read weeks ago. And so the full quote was like this. In today's challenging market and with gamers expecting extraordinary experiences, delivering solid quality is no longer enough. The nerve of this man to actually
Yeah, again, solid quality is one thing, but people also just want a good game, right? And yeah, gamers have high expectations because we're looking at games that came out 10, 15, 20 years ago, and we're like, wow, these games are just better overall. Okay, maybe not graphically, right? But like in the golden age of gaming, they were innovative when you first played them, and it's probably, uh, you know, it's just probably the nostalgia that's driving this. But you play older games that came out like Diablo 2, and you compare it to the newer Diablo and many other. I'd even say Diablo 2 is better than Baldur's Gate 3, in my opinion, right? And Baldur's Gate 3 was still a good game, right? And I'd even say games like Divinity, Original Sin, and Pathfinders was better than Baldur's Gate 3, right? The consumer mindset is I played good things before, and things nowadays they cost more, they take more time, right? They have more shoved in, like even things that don't even benefit the game, and they demand 70 fucking dollars from me. In fact, in the case of Concord, if you don't buy it, they blame you, the gamer, for not buying it because, oh, well, it had an ideology, and if you don't purchase product, you don't support the ideology, and if you don't support the ideology, you're a bad fucking person, right? These are things people are saying, and like no one's really getting mad per se. People are just moving, like they're moving to other forms of entertainment.
pretend like Ubisoft has not been delivering a bunch of Ubislop and that they've been delivering like very solid experiences for gamers. And that the only reason why they're getting criticism for things like Outlaws is because of the gamers' extraordinary expectations. And yeah, as mentioned, around that same time period, we had a similar statement being made by the Cities Skylines 2 publisher, that being Paradox Interactive. And if you don't know, Cities Skylines 2 has been a bit controversial in of itself, having mixed reviews altogether, and even under the recent reviews too, 53.
And I hate Paradox Interactive because they have the opinion that if they just dumb down their strategy games just a little more, they'll scrape uh, the wider audience that they know don't really care for their games, but they would think would pick them up, right? And they did this with Age of Wonders 3. Though I've had thousands of hours in that game, they still dumbed it down from the previous Age of Wonders. I think they dumbed down the Victoria 3 also, and dumbed down this. Again, they think if they make their strategy games, which is for a niche, right, a specific type of gamers that like strategy games, if they just make them dumber, they'll scrape in more people, and it just doesn't work that way.
3%. Reviews such as, 1 year later and the game is still missing integral features. They were literally promised in the promotional material. The economy still doesn't actually function, meaning you will not see goods from your industries travel across your town. Everything just teleports as needed. Your finances make no sense because somehow you just get more money, but cannot figure out where it's actually coming from, resulting in there being no way to fail. It's also great to see their CEO literally lie about features of the game before release, and then blame the customers when the reception to their half-baked pile of trash is poor.
Yeah, again, they dumb down their games. They make them borderline so fucking easy, and they think that, oh, we're gonna grab these type of this, the individual that again are into strategy gaming. So a type of games that require skill and require understanding of the mechanics. They think if they dumb those types of games down, they'll get more people. And it's like, no, you'll just go do away with the demographic you have, and I don't know. Will you scrape together more? Probably not. Assume you won't, right? Assume that won't happen, and then just make games for your demographic.
So yeah, it's just crazy that for years now, these major companies in the AAA space have been delivering subpar products, and that's being generous to call them subpar. But they're not acknowledging that, really. They're just saying, like, oh, gamers' expectations are just so high now. Feel bad for us. Like, those gamers, they're just so needy. On October...
I mean, again, I just ask for, like, the type of games just maintain what they have. Like, at this point, every time, like, name a single IP that changes, or that tries to reach a new audience, tries to go, like, become games for everyone. Like, name a single game that does that and actually fucking succeeds. Right? I mean, can I even think of games like that? Like, maybe like Elden Ring, but again, the same people. Like, Elden Ring did scrape together a lot of people. Baldur's Gate 3 again scraped together a lot of normies, right? And has several dumbed down things that appeal to normies, and that's why it got popular. And Elden Ring, maybe less so, but I'd say more people got into Elden Ring. Like, Elden Ring was one of the first few Souls types that I played like 8 or 9 times. So yeah, I'd say Elden Ring also scraped together a decent group of people outside of just the Souls likes. Yeah.
Fifth, we had Del Walker. This is a guy who was associated with Naughty Dog, Rocksteady, Respawn, Sega, etc., etc. This guy started to get a lot of attention back after Palworld had released, because he made multiple posts that could be seen as him attacking the devs of Palworld. And since then, it seems like he's defended numerous AAA companies while expressing disdain towards indie gaming companies. And here he's trying to gaslight gamers about Tekken 8's monetization. Before we continue, here's some quick context on that situation. Back on October 8th, GameRant provided this summary, saying, Tekken 8 faces backlash over paid DLC and monetization, leading to negative reviews. Nugamaki Temple Stage DLC is a separate purchase, sparking controversy among fans. Despite positive aspects like gameplay and visuals, the game's microtransactions draw criticism. Regarding the recent influx of negative reviews that Tekken 8 has been getting over all that, here's some people voicing their opinions. Yes, deserved, because half the decisions they're making is crazy. Why would we pay for a stage now when it was free last Season Pass? Is it to cover up the mid-story content? Also 3 DLCs with all similar mechanics, with Hayachi having the most busted out of all 3, too OP. The base game is excellent. Some of the DLC is great, especially the Diva and other lady stuff, but holy smokes, both Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8 have the stupidest Battle Pass rewards. So much cringe. Regardless of what you think about the monetization situation with Tekken 8, it's not surprising at all that Del Walker would defend those practices. He writes, "Hi, game developers' perspective here. I believe Tekken 8 showcases how some game fans are creating conditions for their favorite games to disappear. Here's why. Tekken 8 on paper is an astonishingly risky bet. It's almost delusional on paper, and can only survive with every current Tekken player throwing $5 at it every 3 to 4 months, or aggressive growth. The fan base, while passionate, isn't growing enough and seems uninterested in the financial realities. They review bomb these sustainability efforts, then wonder why franchises like Soul Calibur or Virtua Fighter are gone."
I mean, again, they're gone because the companies over those didn't care for the games as art. They care for them as a product, as something that if they don't leech as much money from it as possible, right? That then they just shouldn't exist. And they try to add these stupid things into those type of games, and then people pulled out. Like, again, why do I care? Again, it's gonna sound like heartless. I don't care the developer's stance on this, right? Like, as the consumer, you really only have the power to meet my demands and nothing else, right? Like, well, why do I care? The spreadsheets and all this, that, and the other. Like, I just why don't give us these predatory fucking monetization season passings. Like, they destroy the game, like gaming as a whole. They destroy, again, games like these where they're primarily skill based, and even if the season pass content is cosmetic, like he said, like the DLC for one of the fighters was broken, incentivizing you to buy it. Like, I hate being mean about this. I don't care the developer's perspective.
I've seen these exact same arguments being made by other people in similar attempts to defend AAA corporations and their monetization strategies. There's lots of evidence to show that these companies are experiencing financial bloat with their expenses, and that's completely an issue with the way their management is leading things, and not an issue with...
Yeah, they're moving towards, an unsustainable practice of live service and trying to rope you into playing the game because, again, they're in this situation where they're over-bloated multi-billion-dollar companies that need to do this. Like, this is the point where Capcom is, and is Capcom over Tekken 8? Probably not, but it seems to be going down the same route.
How the consumer is perceiving those products. On top of that, venture funding has also been trending down for these corporations. And there's also been a trend of worldwide gaming revenue also decreasing. There's more factors too, for example, inflation being another one of those. But the point's rather simple. All of this is to say that AAA industry people like Del Walker don't want to acknowledge the issues with their end of things. Instead, they seem more content to try and blame gamers and act like it's our responsibility to financially uphold these corporations, despite the fact that it's their poor decisions that have caused this financial bloat and led them down this path of corporate greed. There's an interesting post on Reddit that talks about Del Walker's tweet, and it reads, "Why do some people treat video games like a charity and not a product? I got into an argument with a dear friend of mine about this tweet from a game developer, that being Del Walker, defending the action of Tekken adding microtransactions and outright being scummy and greedy in general after Tekken 8 got review bombed due to it. I said that the review bombing is fair and is the only way the company will listen to its audience, but he said that the fans are in the wrong and shouldn't do that, and agreed with the developer. He ultimately said, I'm not a real fan of the game because I didn't want to support the game financially, and in the future if the game failed, then me and other people like me are the reason for its failure and not the devs or the higher ups. After that, he said that me and my actions could affect video game devs and companies in general." Well, good, they should. I actually don't believe it. How can someone justify paying for microtransactions and battle pass in a game priced at $70+? And if a fan doesn't agree with this, they're the problem and not the developers or the company's higher ups. How is it the consumer's fault and not the people who created the game?
Yeah, it's absolutely, because, again, they don't view games like franchises. They don't view them like genres. They view them like parts, like car parts, right? They don't view it like art. They view it like just any other mass producible product, but games just are not that. Right? That is unsustainable. That will not work. And maybe in the case of Call of Duty, you may rope together the same brain dead fucking Call of Duty player that will just buy any Call of Duty just because it's Call of Duty. Like, you won't rope in anyone new. And again, like, this live services are required to rope in more player because they want that continuous growth, right? And not only that, people are dropping off Call of Duty games, right? And again, Microsoft being an overly bloated conglomerate, it's almost like they don't even need people to play. Again, they can suck ESG money, suck government grants, but the gaming as an art suffers because of this. Like, the consumer suffers because of this, right? And it's up to the company to ensure that the product and the overall consumer experience does not suffer. Like, it's this odd situation that the company is not has absolutely like no responsibility to their consumers. It's the other way around. That's just like nowhere else in any other industry does this make any fucking sense, right? But for some reason, for video games and for like entertainment, no, like they demand you give them your money. If you don't do this, you're a bad person. It's just so fucking weird and just odd corporate toxicity that these game companies and even the devs have against the consumer, against gamers, against the players. That just it makes people glad that these companies are failing.
A top response to that post reads, "Abusers often emotionally manipulate their victims to defend them against the victim's best interests. Often the victim isn't aware of it at the time depending on how much control the abuser has over the narrative. The same companies that call gamers racist, etc. for not buying their slop, the same consultancy agencies who promote a fringe political ideology through extortion and threats of abuse from their own political activists. A lot can be learned about this political movement from domestic abuse cases with people who score highly on the dark triad personality traits."
Yeah, exactly. And again, you point. It seems Looney Tune for me pointing this out, which is why people probably just don't believe me. Like, it seems idiotic. It seems like, what the fuck? But no, this is absolutely something that is happening, right? They're absolutely in companies. They think those types of people are their audience. Those types of ideological individuals that, by the way, do not play their fucking games. And I say this in almost every one of my videos. The numbers don't show. The people that attack you for not playing the game, they're also not buying the fucking game. Right?
Another top response reads, "Game devs are more likely to defend these shenanigans as they see as something they're owed for all the time and effort they've put into their projects. As such, it's also why they're so confrontational about people criticizing them. How dare these gamers think we shouldn't get paid for what we made? Your friend, on the other hand, reminds me of the extra credits video on the $70 price tag. Basically, they're assuming all the time and money spent on making the game means it's obviously good. And it's the obligation of us to show our support, as that game is made with so much love and care. These arguments fall apart as we find out just how mismanaged game budgets are, the intention by devs and publishers to make as much profit as possible, the increasingly terrible state games are released in, and the reality of, if a developer does go under, we'll simply play something else."
Yeah, and they put in time, money, and effort to foster that type of fan base and that type of ideology that is, again, anti-gamer. It's anti-human. It's like, oh, well, because we put this much money in it, you have to support it. No. Right? You can put as much money in a pile of shit. That doesn't mean I have to buy it. Like, what the fuck you mean? If it's a good game, I will buy it. You know? And again, what constitutes a good game? Well, I mean, I don't really. Personally, I think gameplay is good and a good story is alright. But you don't know unless you put the product out. But the problem is everything's a sequel, everything's a prequel, everything's a remaster, everything's a reimagining. Every IP is just there's no new IPs coming out. And though they might be good, just wearing the same Call of Duty IP like a fucking skin suit to some people, to me it's like, well, No, it's a matter of principle. I will not play any remake. I need something new. And you don't. If you look at the indie scene, right, and a couple of AA games, a couple of multiplayer focused games like Lethal Company or like Pilgrims or I guess Helldivers. That's where the silver age of gaming is coming. Games like those in indie products. People are turning away from AAA games.
Someone else responds to that and says, for what it's worth, I'm a game developer and I absolutely do not defend stuff like this. I'm making a game and plan to sell it early access, but I'm also going to say, look, seriously guys, don't buy it unless you already think it's worth it. So it sounds like that person is most likely an indie dev. Most of the issues being discussed here clearly are directed towards the AAA side of things. On a similar note about people defending AAA corporations, whether they're AAA devs or they're corporate bootlickers, we had this example from yesterday regarding Dragon Age the Veilguard. Wolfheart FPS had made a review that was, if anything, rather mixed. It wasn't overly negative, and it did have positive aspects of the game that he enjoyed. Still, he got comments like this, saying, oh please, I hate when people make these follow-up tweets after they open the floodgates for BioWare to be harassed. All Wolfheart did was point out his issues with Dragon Age the Veilguard.
Yeah, and the person that's Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah, I can tell who this person belongs to.
BioWare to be harassed. All Wolfheart did was point out his issues with Dragon Age the Veilguard, and some other issues with how BioWare has been handling marketing for the game. And yet some of these people are acting like he's the worst person in the world because of all of that, saying that he's basically enabling people to harass BioWare. And it's really odd to treat BioWare like that, as if it's not a corporate entity, but instead an individual. An individual that needs protecting from the toxic gamers. Because
yeah, on one hand, they are a corporate entity because they want to mass produce art, mass produce games, and they want to do every slimy trick in the book. They hire their consultants, foster the rabid fucking ideological individuals. So on one hand, they are a corporate entity, but on the other hand, it's like, oh no, you shouldn't downvote this. You shouldn't shit on their product. You should support it. Oh, by the way, if you don't, you're a bad person. There's something wrong with you. It's like, again, like people see these Looney Tune tactics being done, and again, no one's mad. People are just not paying for it. I think Velgar is going to flop because one, I have no faith in BioWare anymore, right? And two, people just don't have faith in AAA games, like games that cost hundreds of millions of fucking dollars, takes 4, 5, 6 years, demands 70, 120, 150 fucking dollars from you. And they take away most of the mechanics that Dragon Age had in the past, and it just looks uglier, like it looks worse visually and aesthetically with the characters.
once again, many of these bootlickers act like we all have a fiduciary duty to prop these corporations up, no matter what mistakes they're making, and no matter how predatory they are towards gamers. Making all of that more bizarre is how when you take a look at the profile of these sort of people, oftentimes they're LARPing as some sort of like online activist or revolutionary, while simultaneously also being some of the biggest corporate defenders you'll ever see on the internet. On October 23rd, there was also this situation with Denuvo of all companies, also trying to play victim here. Throughout their numerous statements, they essentially acted like they were getting abuse from gamers and that they were sick of it, while ignoring
Oh, well, what did that say? What did that say? Anti-piracy company Denuvo is tired of gamers saying that the RM is bad for the game. Just super hard to see as a gamer what is the immediate benefit. So, what the fuck is Denuvo anyway? It's supposed to be anti-tampering software, right? But okay, it runs about 1,000,000 checks in the background, so it actively hampers performance, obliterates your CPU, obliterates your GPU, right? It doesn't even do what it says it's going to do because most games get cracked after a week. I guarantee you, Call of Duty Black Ops 6 that just came out got cracked, right? So if you're a stupid fucking idiot and you act like the good little paying customer and you pay $70, you get a worse fucking product than someone that fucking just pirates it, so they don't have to deal with Denuvo and their bullshit and they always have to be online goofy shit. Like, you are the sucker for being the good little pay pig, being the good, willing, paying customer, right? While I am the big bad, I surf the high seas, wink, wink, and get it without. Like, I know people that if you have the Denuvo DRM on the game, that guarantees about a third of the players are like, I will not buy this. I will wait for it to hit torrent, then I'll play it. Yeah, like maybe back in like the early 2000s, the Nouveau actually did what it's supposed to do, and it didn't hamper the game as much. But now it's just, why have the Nouveau? Like, I guess companies has fallen for this idea that anybody could just, pirate their game, right? And again, that's not really the case. I mean, anyone can pirate it, like, but they go on torrent. Like, they don't take the paying product, twist it into something that they can sell 3, 4, 5 times and give it to people. Like, it doesn't really work that way. Like, most people are not that computer savvy. But again, the Nouveau has, I guess, either sold AAA gaming companies into this lie, and even some indie gaming companies, or I guess by law, certain companies are supposed to have the Nouveau because it's just a big third party DRM conglomerate. Is effectively part of the fucking product.
Actually acted like they were getting abuse from gamers and that they were sick of it, while ignoring any and all of the documented issues that they've brought to certain games. And every single situation that we went over in this video, whether it was the Ubisoft one, the Paradox one, the Tekken one, and this Denuvo one, well, all this stuff occurred in October. Just October of this year. Perhaps all the major losses that AAA companies have been seeing throughout 2024 has really caused these corporations and their bootleggers to go into overdrive this month, running defense for them and damage control. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you enjoyed my coverage, please consider liking and or subscribing to the channel. As always, appreciate ya, have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next.
I think we're headed towards maybe something resembling a gaming crash, but again, I'm calling it the Silver Age of gaming is coming up after this. For your purchasing decisions, but your purchasing decisions could affect whether this company succeeds or fails. That's literally what's supposed to happen in a healthy market. Yeah, if you do not put out a product that people like, that the consumer like, you shouldn't exist. I mean, it sucks to say, right? But yeah, how dare gamers expect games to be finished, polished, complete before getting sold at overinflated prices instead of being gullible enough to think companies will actually keep any of the promises that they will fix it later. Yeah. Gamers want games that work, good story, no agenda. CEO, gamers' expectations are just too high. Yeah. Apparently, if that's too high of an expectation, then I don't know. Maybe the problem is the gaming industry. High expectations. We want a fun working experience, not hyper realism. Is that too much to ask? Well, hyper realism. We don't want current day bullshit in our games. Like, and again, people attack heel versus babyface because he was some angry bald man and flipping out. And usually, when people actually commit the sin of actually being passionate about something, people just point and laugh at them. But yeah, when he shat on Starfield, like, it was 100% deserved. And this comes from someone who absolutely loves Starfield. Like, if you do not want to play a game for any fucking reason, you don't have to. And if you want to play a game for any fucking reason, you should be allowed. And people should just shut the fuck up about your decision. It's like, oh, why do you play this game? Because I like it. Oh, well, you're not supposed to. Kiss my ass. It's like, it's literally that simple. But again, the only reason people try to complicate that are people that are trying to shove ideology down your fucking throat. Like, that's the only explanation I have. Keep holding the line, boys. Oh, God. If a second crash will fix games companies, so be it. Yeah. And again, I can remain, I can remain disinterested longer than they can remain solvent. Again, I have an entire backlog of games I can replay. Like, I can go, hell, probably my entire fucking life without playing another Ubisoft product, another new BioWare game, buying another new EA game. Like, I don't have to. And many people are in my situation where we have a catalog of games we can always just go back to. Like, and again, at the end of the day, you're selling games. Like, you're not selling an essential product. You're selling again, one form of entertainment, right? And you're not even really doing that good. I mean, if you look at across the seas, at Chinese games, at South Korean games, at Japanese games, they're blowing Western entertainment out the fucking water, right? So you're not even doing the best in your fucking wheelhouse, but you demand more money from me, the consumer. Like, get the fuck out of here, that goofy shit. But anyway, that's all I gotta say about this. Peace.